Hi, I'm Katie Couric. Welcome to Eye to Eye. Is there really a way to get everything you want? There's a new bestseller out that claims you can just by wanting it bad enough. The Reverend Michael Beckwith let CBS's Bill Whitaker in on the secrets behind the secret.
What is it? Is the secret the law of attraction?
The law of attraction, in this particular DV, that's where it starts out. Basically, it's a law of attraction.
And what is that?
It is simply that the thoughts, your chronic thoughts, the thoughts you hold in your awareness, have the tendency to become your experiences. What you think about, you bring about. What you think about becomes your belief. What you believe becomes the perception by which you view life, and your perception basically determines your experience. It's very, very basic. Science would corroborate the fact that your thoughts are units of energy that become experience, that become behavior, that become habit, that become even symptoms in the body. So it's not new, but I think, again, this powerful marketing is allowing people to begin to think about what they can consciously think about rather than just kind of ambling along in life.
So is it the power of positive thinking?
I don't call it the power of positive thinking, because you can be positive that you're broke, but I call it affirmative thinking. So it's life on the affirmative. So you're placing your attention on love, on harmony, on service, on power, on joy, which we teach are really the natural states of your being. And as you keep bringing your attention there, then the world, the universe kind of shapes itself around where your attention is.
So is it that you can actually move the universe, move objects, move...
Well, I wouldn't talk about the fact moving objects or things of that particular nature, but you can begin to shape your own destiny by the attitude that you keep. The scientists have a wonderful language in which they call it the observer effect, that you basically, in any experiment, you absolutely change the experiment just by observing it. You change it on a subatomic level. So as individuals begin to look at the world, look at their life, but with an intention of having more happiness, with an intention of seeing more beauty, with an intention of looking for more beauty or more opportunities, they'll have a tendency to find what they're looking for.
So if you're walking around gloomy and morose, you'll see
a lack of opportunity, and you'll have a tendency to keep radiating that into your experience. But as you begin to change your outlook, which we all have the capacity to do so, some it may be more difficult than others, then you'll have an opportunity to see more opportunities for you to express yourself.
It can seem that if you're poor and you're sick, it's your doing.
Well, one thing we teach here is we never blame a person for their experience, but we do encourage everyone to take responsibility for their life. So blame and responsibility are not synonymous. So an individual might be in a situation where, as you're describing, they may be poor, they may be sick, they may be unemployed, there may be any manner of circumstance they may be participating in, and we wouldn't say you're to blame for that. But we will say you can now take responsibility for your life and begin to walk in the direction of progress. In other words, you can release blaming everyone else, begin to put your attention on how you can change inside, and then watch life correspond to that inner change. It doesn't do any good to blame. Blame, it's endless. You know, people blame society. They blame all manner of people for their circumstances and situation. The idea is to take responsibility for your life.
In the video, there are people who are looking for wealth, looking for things. The woman who wants the necklace, and all of a sudden it's on her neck.
Right, she visualizes it there.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it that sort of thing?
Not really. Those are the kind of the beginning steps of teaching, you know, and I think that oftentimes people kind of gather around how to get things fast in their life. That's not the real message. The real message is that as you begin to change internally, your life begins to reflect that change. And that it does include prosperity, it does include health, it does include right relations, it does include ideal employment. It includes using the law to stabilize your structures in life. Health, your mental and emotional health, finances. You stabilize the structures so that ultimately you can be a beneficial presence on the planet. Now the way it shows on the video, since it's a beginning video, there's a lot of emphasis around what you can get, what you can attract to yourself.
It sort of sounds like the universe is your own personal ATM.
Right. And I think that's
not the message.
I think that's not the entire message. That's the beginning stage message, that you can open yourself up and have greater possibilities come into your life. But this teaching is not really about materialism, nor is it about consumerism. It's really about growing spiritually, with an understanding that there are laws in the universe that if you practice them, they'll respond to you. Just like electricity. It's like gravity.
I think he puts it very succinctly.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, I do too.
So, I think that one thing that this shows the secret behind the secret. So there's one thing that I'd like to talk a little bit about that I think is really one of the missing parts to all of this. So I have this great article, it's called The Shocking Truth About Action. And I think it's kind of important to start talking a little bit about this action thing, because as humans, we're always setting an intention, we decide what we want, and then the first thing that happens is we start trying to figure out what we need to do to get it. And the reason that gets so frustrating, usually that action is driven by fear and worry and doubt. The reason that gets so frustrating sometimes is because we're not really clear about what it is we're moving towards. So how are we going to figure out what to do to get there?
Exactly.
It's kind of a little bit intense, and how this guy puts it, it's really creating in reverse. Trying to force it with our thoughts when it's really just about imagination and feeling it and being in the joy of it. So I'm going to read a little bit. The gentleman's name is Dr. Robert Anthony, and again, it's called The Shocking Truth About Action, and this particular part is called Doing Without Doing, which I love. I mean, we're focused on the action, but the truth is, if we can get what we want without being, obsessed about the action part and just let it naturally unfold, it's pretty fun, it's pretty easy, and I'm sure that's happened to people out there, and you've gotten what you've wanted, and it's been so easy, So here's a little bit about what Dr. Robert Anthony says. He says, one of the mistaken certainties or misconceptions that most people operate under is that you get what you want in life by what you do or through the actions, and most people believe that the doing or the action part is what makes things happen. The truth is that 90% of most people's actions are spent trying to compensate for inappropriate thought. We teach at the school, it's kind of the ego's job to keep things really nebulous, to keep it really nebulous. And it's really about, again, the declaring and get really clear. That feeling, in order to get clear about that feeling, you've got to step into clarity. Be really clear so you could really get a clear picture in your mind.
You know what happens most of the time, Mitch? Whenever I ask somebody, well, what is it that you want, after they come in and they tell me their story and their problem, a lot of times I get the blank stare. I mean, I hear crickets chirping in the background because they've been so focused on the problem, they can't even see past it. And even when I sit down in the chair to get a session, I tend to have that problem as well. Like, well, what is it that I want? I've been so focused on the trees instead of the forest. So exactly. I just have to reiterate that the clarity of really knowing what you want and being very specific about it is step number one.
And I know I hear it all the time, Brandy, from my clients. So what do you want? What would you rather? If you could wave your magic wand and have it any way you desire it to be, what do you want? Well, I know I don't want this, and I know I don't want that, and I'm like, well, I know we've already discussed that, so what do you want? I mean, it actually takes people sometimes 3 or 4 times of asking that and being really focused until they find, good point. I don't know what I want. Well, guess what? If you don't know what you want, there's a pretty good reason why you're not getting it.
Yes, I have the experience of somebody saying, well, I don't want to be angry and frustrated anymore. And then I say, so if you're not angry and frustrated, how are you feeling? And they're like, not angry and frustrated. I'm like, exactly. So if you're not angry and frustrated, how are you feeling? And we do these rounds, and I can see they're actually getting angry and frustrated with me. Yeah. And so finally, I start throwing some things out there. Would you like to feel peaceful, calm, happy, relaxed?
Oh,
what are
yeah.
And they go, oh, yeah. And it's just so interesting that I think, we'll talk about limited beliefs at some point.
Exactly.
The way that we're structured, we automatically go back to that. And then breaking out of that rut, looking at a new thought process can be a little bit challenging sometimes. But once you learn the tools how to do it, it gets easier and easier and easier. So
more fun, and it feels better and better. And then you see more evidence in the world that it's working, so you want to do it even more. And that's when you start experiencing more joy and happiness and peace in your life.